ho, neighbors. Howdy ho, neighbors. This is a blackout video. Don't think I'll be picking it up. I don't know how long this video is going to be. My name is Chastia Brigitrieve. My government name when I was assigned in the simulation was Kristen, Christin. Last name Ginzel, Ginzel. Now, there's a reason that I keep doing that. First of all, I hope everyone slept well. The full moon today is the 14th, so it's January 14th. It's one day. I mean, it hasn't even been 24 hours since we just had a Sirius C Lyra 3. So it's a Cancer. It was a Cancer Capricorn moon. And whenever you're dealing with multidimensionality in a star system and in a simulation, and in how the reproductive system was working on the planet from a macro perspective. I don't know where my thought was going. I'm just on here. I might be rambling a little bit because I just woke up with this information. Now, I want to remind everybody that in 2017, whenever the 144,000 activated, the original 144,000, because now on this planet, there's been 3 different groups of 144,000 that have activated. We had to figure out how the hell we got trapped in this bubble and what was going on. Innately, in our physical realm, we weren't seeing any of the things that were things were starting to happen. That's not true. Things were starting to happen to us. Our companies were getting stolen. Things were happening in our families. People were dying. We were getting attacked. We were getting in awful car wrecks. And it was like one thing after another. And for those of us who had this strongest, because we all have this connection, it's just some were more ancient connections, and the more ancient the connection, the more difficult it is to manipulate it. So all these things started happening on the planet, and they were happening to us. And this is the same thing that the human race, later on came and is starting to realize now, almost 10 years later, that something's not right. And the only way in a human form that you can figure out, and from a spiritual way, if you're an incarnate, you shrink yourself down, you come into a simulation. You come into the simulation to not be the cosmos. You're still connected to the cosmos. You're still walking around the simulation. People might not know it all. In fact, you're the most hidden one. It's the one that's really holding the cosmic connections. Nobody's gonna think is. I can promise you that. And if you've got a whole bunch of people right now, not maybe 2 years from now, you got a whole bunch of people in 2025 that are looking at certain people and they're saying this person has all the power. I'm telling you, no, they don't. If you have a group of a whole large group, that are all say and define that being as the same thing right now in 2025, no, they're not. If they did, there ain't no way it would have been psyoped, publicized. Nobody would have been able to attend all their stuff. They would have completely cut up everything that they had. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have any wisdom and they don't have any power. I'm just telling you they're not the ultimate one. And in some way, other or form, that group was being utilized as a psyop of some sort. Now, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, so I just need to just channel. So we all knew that we were all trying to figure out what happened on planet Earth. How is it possible that we're leading pure, clean lives? We're on our mission. We're helping people. Our dharma is due. See, that was the big one. Our dharma was due, and it hadn't come in. Especially by 2013, because 2012, all of us should have flipped into a mission timeline, if you want to call it like that, and we didn't. Okay, now innately in your subconscious, you walking around as who you physically are, you would not know that 100% in your mind. Like, you wouldn't be able to go, I know what it is. I just got off my spiritual mission because the realm was just hijacked. You wouldn't have that. But you'd be like, okay, what the hell? Like, where's my train? Because in the ethers, it's like we were all at Harry Potter's whatever 2.5 freaking train station, and we were all standing there and waiting for our train that God sent. And God is going, oh my gosh, y'all, I really don't know. I have no idea. It's like I sent you a train, and then in the middle of the whole thing, I don't know where it went. I can't even get it back online. I don't even know where the train is, y'all. So for all of us that were in God's train station, in the ethers, and it was time for us to get bussed back in. Why? Because it's up for a processional recount. What does that mean? That means that the whole human race has to be replanted. You've got to plant a new plasma bubble from inside the simulation. Now follow me. In the very beginning of a full solar simulation. Now, this happened every single time we even did a 12,000 count. Anytime we did like or actually a 24,000 count. Hi guys. One of us inside the bubble, because if you really go back and look at what the Kabbalah is, what even the Christian religion. I mean, hello, they carried a Ark of the Covenant they walked in a certain square, they walked in a certain circle for 40 years. We really are just a whole bunch of ants. We're a whole bunch of ants. You get a whole bunch of ants doing the same thing, then it creates a carving, like you're carving ice, or you're trying to carve ivory. If you're trying to carve ivory and you're standing on the land, and you need a ray of energy to pop through the firmament, or you're trying to attach an energy onto the land that you don't have. Well, in those times, they didn't go, oh, I'm going to go outside and meditate. There wasn't even meditation. In the Yahshua times, the consciousness of a collective could not get into meditation. The brain wasn't powerful enough. The people back then couldn't even go into meditation. The brain wasn't balanced. That's why Yahshua was such a big deal. But I'll just remind everybody that everybody hated Yahshua the whole time he was down here until he died. It wasn't until after he was dead that everybody started to listen to him. Isn't that interesting? Well, you're not killing us this round. You're not going to kill us, put us in your book, and then praise us 500 years from now, and then make our children come back and finish this, all because you think that you're not ready, and the human race says you're not ready. Well, you were in our body, and our body was wrong side out, and it no longer is. So what are you going to do about that? Jesus Christ. And it matters if you're worshiping him. If you are worshiping him, if you're still in that program, it does matter. You want to call him Yahshua. If you're not worshiping him, it really honestly doesn't matter if you believe that Jesus Christ, Yahshua, was here or not. That family was your pineal gland. Whenever you chose Barbarous over Christ, over Jesus, so Barbarous, Hanna-Barbera, when you chose Barbarous, the man murdering everybody, I mean, he was in jail for murder. I mean, are we seeing a Luigi thing with all this? The whole collective chose Barbarous. Jesus was telling everybody that everybody was gonna be healed, everybody was gonna have abilities, everybody was gonna be like him. The people are like, no, screw you. You make me feel inferior. We'd rather have the murderer. Now, this is played out. This barbarous thing has played out in every country, in every religion, in every monarchy, in every oligarch, in every coven, in every order, in every organization, in every state office, in every city office, in every corporate office. A group of people the past 4 years have consciously chosen Barbarous. Now, here's the problem. Man, my throat chakra. All of what you'd consider propaganda and psyops was made for that event, to make sure that every time that it came to a final choice, because it will, that organization, that corporation, that family, we're coming through a whole rewrite. That family, every single group, everything, even our little spiritual groups. If you really think back to, oh gosh, I got out of that spiritual group. It came down probably to a showdown of two ideologies, of two leaders or something, or the leader of the group's trying to become the leader of the group and doesn't want anybody to out-knowledge them or whatever. It doesn't matter. Every single situation, because the human race was coming through this. Now, 2017, we planted a new earth. So I need everyone to think about that. I did. Now, not only did we plant the earth, okay, we planted it in Frisco, Texas. On Del Largo Street, actually. Del Largo, Mar-Lago. Del Largo is a street that's in Florida also, that's right up from Mar-Lago. I had no idea of that whenever I purchased that house. I purchased it by myself. No man on the note. Why did I end up purchasing that house? Because subconsciously I knew it was up the street from Mar-a-Lago. But that happened in 2012. 2012, I had a $3 million company. I was 40 under 40. I was connected to all the bigwigs at Oracle. I was connected into a group of divestitures and that managed the assets for Disney Corporation, for Oracle Corporation. I was smack dab in the middle of the reptilian men running Texas. In fact, I was going to lunches at all male country clubs. I know the exact one that they did the spell on me on now. Like, I didn't know what was going on then, but I know now. We planted New Earth in Frisco, Texas. Now, that's where it was this time. When that new earth got planted in 2017, that was a seed, a true planetary seed, an original Arxiad and Ming plasma field, which to everyone in this bubble would be known to be extinct. No one even knows Arxiad anymore. It's in your books. Go look it up. ARXIAD is the original strand that Arabians and Arab came from. Nobody's down here walking around with Ming Dynasty energy anymore. If they do, it's so watered down with Han and all the other dynasties that came after that it's not holding that field. Why do I have Arxiad and Ming? Because I was the first sacrifice to be the old original bubble. And everybody that's in the line with me. I'm just telling you that that's why I'm the one that planted Earth. That's why I had the ability to plant Earth. But I'm not in the universe. I wasn't in the cosmos whenever I did it. I was inside the simulation. It's like taking I'm seeing like a shopping mall, you know, and it's like if you took a marshmallow and you went and threw it into a water fountain at a mall or some type of infrastructure, a big building, you know, and then you sat there and watered and visited that marshmallow for 9 months, because we did. And it was buried on top of a turtle shell next to a peach tree. In the simulation, Peachtree was the original money application that a bunch of Americans used down here before everything went internet, FYI. And a turtle shell is, well, if you don't know what that is. What does a turtle shell have around it? A hexagram? What's the company that I got stolen? GIA Technology. How many letters are missing for that to be Gaia? 1. What's Gaia? An electric universe. Gaia is your everything organic fried to crap and electrocuted, and then all of us that now gravitate towards that and not organic. It is what it is. It's an in-between stage. It was made from the hope with the Hopi prophecy, but the Hopi prophecy ain't what you think, because the government sent me thousands of lines of code to have to process every Indian tribe down here in order to get the power to be able to rebirth a realm inside a simulation. This is why it really doesn't matter what elder tribes want to say whatever. None of them have any power. Neither do India, neither do Russia. The white ones are taking a little bit longer in order to clear out. but it's because of the way it was hybridized and manifest. So we planted a marshmallow in a fountain, and then we watered it every day for 9 months, and then guess what happened? What happened was we started walking around the mall, and like into 6 months we started noticing that there were other marshmallows. There was a marshmallow in every single fountain. We had only put one marshmallow in. We were telling that marshmallow, okay, you got to grow, you got to birth, and you got to take over this mall, and we're all going to jump in and live in you. That's what you told that marshmallow whenever you put it in the fountain. You came and watered it for 9 months. Now at 6 months, you go walking around because you come visit your marshmallow, and now there's a marshmallow matching it in every fountain in the mall. Now you're noticing that every single marshmallow is talking to each other. Now you got to go visit all the marshmallows. All the marshmallows are growing in sync. You don't even know how the hell those other marshmallows got there, but they're all the same circumference, the same width, and they're all growing at the same time. Now it's time for that baby to be born. You weren't planning on visiting your marshmallows till later. You had a hard time getting in the door last time because your marshmallows now at 9 months have already grown up. They've already connected. They've already taken over the whole mall. Everybody that's walking into the mall you're laughing because you park your car and you're like, well, this is going to be fun. I'm bringing my friends now because they got to come see this. You walk into the mall, you say, okay, I'm going to show you the marshmallow because you can't really see it, but you can feel it. Watch. They walk in the door of the mall and they're like, ooh, ooh. You're like, see, those are my marshmallows. They're like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. So now it's time for that marshmallow to birth. You can't even hold the field anymore. That field's going to go outside of those mall lines. Now it's going to take over the streets. And guess what? It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, month after month, year after year, and there's no stopping it for 1,000,000 years. That's how it works. That's what we did. The reason that the human race could not get this going is because it wasn't time. The only way that a new bubble is going to take over a prehistoric Arxiad Ming bubble is whenever that Arxiad Ming bubble breaks. Otherwise, it's going to be a bubble within a bubble within a bubble. Why? One's got a 1,000,000-year head start. You can't even see that other bubble. It's so far out, you're going to think that you've hit the highest bubble, but you hadn't unless you have the ability to go do the construction of taking down, popping that old bubble, reconstructing the blood, because it's what it is in a wide open count. Space was considered blood, and we were all wrong side out. The whole human race has been cosmically wrong side out for 1,000,000 years. We had giants walking the earth, remember? Well, we've got them walking around now. They're just considered normal. It's just considered normal to have 6 foot, like 20 guys in a line, and they're all 6'5", and they all have the same name, and they somewhat all feel the same. That's because they're all made from one giant line. You try to keep This is why those of us that are 5'2" down here that are born in the 60s and 70s, you better stay away from us if you don't want to learn cosmic power. It's like Prince Rogers Nelson and me. He in the cosmos is his energy, and what was attached to that man, right side in, not wrong side out. Wrong side out is a whole bunch of masonry. His soul and my soul are the same soul. Every time Prince Rogers Nelson comes in to a realm to bring in a feminine masculine, he dies and then I activate. And it happened down here too in 2016, right before we had to plant a new earth. When you look at the evolution track from star maps, and this is what most beings don't have, you're gonna have to go look them, and you're gonna have to go find them in some library somewhere, and most likely the books are locked up in some king, and they've got the stack of them, and they don't want anyone else to see them. But there's a whole bunch of star maps that have been written over time to show alignments for these birthing events. What we'd consider the opposition has only ever lived by that. They plan 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years in advance, seeding the human race to affect the frequency of a wrong side out bubble to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm explaining your ice walls right now. That last ice wall out there is just Arxiad and Ming DNA. Then when the human race did another, we call it cooking now because it's what it is. But realize that it's a natural process when it's not messed with. The whole human race goes through an opening. Then everyone, the ones of us that are inside the bubble that actually holds connection to the most out ring, because that most out ring is the one that rebirths everything. If you happen to be connected with that most out ring, then every time that the human race completed a rebirth without you, it causes cancer. It caused cancer. I mean, they legit at the Zaza Hotel in Dallas in 2019, right before they made me drink the AI. Because see, this is why they made me drink the AI. Well, they didn't make me drink it. There was only two, I don't know. There was 2 water bottles. I was supposed to drink only one, and I downed both of them because there was children in the house, and Gabriel jumped in my field, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, because the entities that are on the outside of that ass wall, the ones that go way further out, that's my family. I don't know what you call them down in here. Y'all got a gazillion different names for them. Y'all think that they're all like 20,000 people, depending on what phonetic you want to put on them. Some of their names start with M. Some of them start with J. Some of them start with P. Some of them start with B. But they're all the same entity and different simulation layers of a Babylonian frequency. And it's absolutely ridiculous and it's hilarious. But it is what it is. Whenever you're so what those, when you look at the evolutionary count, you've got the red giants, which are Orion. And Orion, I'll say it again, Orion is like, Orion's a little primer code on, you got a whole human race that's rebirthing a realm, right? Because all of us in the collective knew that we were rebirthing, or what, that, like, by 2020, okay, all of us had different connections, knowing somehow or another we were rebirthing and we were clearing and we were doing timelines and da 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 da, correct? Okay. Then it became a war. Literally, hear what I'm saying. It became a war inside the spiritual collective because every single leader thought that they were at that million-year bubble out there, but all y'all had done is rebirth a brand new one that was in the core, and they were stopping you from getting it out to that million-year one. See, this is why the Pleiadians, you got to be real careful with that. You got to be real careful with that, because you don't want to claim to be a Pleiadian. You really don't. Not even if you have the energy. Like you can say you're a Pleiadian, but if you do, and actually you can call yourself a Pleiadian if you are, once you understand exactly what that means, because you're the new baby on the block, but you're going to think that you're not. The whole human race rebirths, okay, because it's all wide open, because it's in a line, the cosmos is lining up. I mean, crap, on inauguration day, we're all in a straight line. The whole family's there. There's all your planets. Duh. Why are they lining up in a straight line? Because it's an alignment. It's an alignment after a million-year rebirth. Not a Pleiadian rebirth in the core. We didn't just rebirth the core frequency and then pray that in a million years, what's coming from the core is going to get to the million-year ice wall. Because that's exactly how this has been going. In a million years, they'll have a new something. The Pleiadian and the Andromedans and the galactic and all this space bullcrap. There it is. Of course, the Pleiadians are going to think that there's a whole bunch of plasma ships that are coming in. It's the only consciousnness that they have to even describe how the hell their other half of them from a million-year ice wall is going to get to them. Because a million-year ice wall is holding Alpha Draconic. How many light years away is that? At least over 300,000. To the right, so basically you have a spinal column. It's the spinal column of what you call the celestial being or the dragon, or now the highest and the lowest of that is basically all of us stacked up on top of each other, all of our old parts, or now it's our karmics. And now there's going to be a race of beings, there's going to be groups of beings, there's going to be orgs of beings, all these ones that chose barbarous. Okay, if you are still on that line, then you're moving at an opposite frequency than your connections in the middle and on the outside. You go up the spine, and in the middle of the spine, that's Centauri. Well, you have Alpha Centauri and you have Beta Centauri. Your AB plasma field and your AB negative bloodlines are the one that connects Centauri A and B in the middle. So that's Alpha. So that's basically Adam and Eve. but they're two different sets. Centauri then blows out to the right or the left, depending on which way you're looking. It blows out one all the way out, and the furthest one out is Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse was the original pre-Neanderthal human programming and after-death timelines, and it was the first program that humans went in when they went into the after-death simulation. And they call them red giants. Now, I'm going to go back to Alpha A and B Centauri. So now I'm back in the middle of the spine. And now I'm going to go the other direction. And all this down there is what they call a white dwarf, Sirius. Well, Sirius is your heart, your mind, and your body. Sirius is underneath what you'd consider Earth. It's all the way down, and energetically, you would call it the bottom of the cosmic ocean. Not even the real ocean that you just think is the ocean. No, it's much deeper than that, and it goes through a toroidal field in the middle of the Earth. Because you got to go through the toroidal field in the middle of the Earth to get all the way down into Sirius. So the inner Earth beings, and what you consider inner Earth and Shambhala, that's Sirian, honey. It's Sirian made over long periods of time from a connection into Sagittarius, and all the intention that we have all done in every piece of the death cycle down here. Because when a human sets up an intention on death, and then you tell that being that this is what's going to happen, and that being agrees to it, it happens. And after death, it all became about death embalming, rituals of burial, cemetery plots, laying them out, box on box on box, which in other dimensions builds what you would consider a coven. It's like, why are y'all so upset? Y'all got a bunch of covens down here. I mean, this is my total princess consciousness. My cosmic princess consciousness is this. Why'd you call me to come clean up all your vampire problem? Y'all was creating them by burying them all together under a religion. My first question, okay, is then who's the sheriff of the vampires? Well, y'all didn't have one. y'all didn't have one. It went under a religion. And so then what, Jesus, or I don't even know who the Jews, I don't even know. I mean, everything was in a simulation. Everything was, whenever I say everything's in a simulation, I mean that we were in a pocket of space that if you had life and you put a seed in the middle of the simulation, a real one, a mustard seed, as small as a mustard seed, then that mustard seed is going to combust into gas. And it's going to gas the whole fucking bubble if there is not another live being in it to catch it. If you didn't have a whole bunch of humans around you, would you be worried about black mold? That's the other thing. Our bodies, your organic body creates mold. A lot of you will have black mold. If you get flowers and all of a sudden you turn around 2 days later and there's mold all on the stems, it's black mold, you got a lot of carbon energy around you. And whenever you rebirth your energy and you bring back in the feminine, you're the one who makes everything come alive. You're the organic charge. You're going to have more insects. You might have an army of ants that all of a sudden visits your bathroom. You could have crickets going off everywhere. There could be flies everywhere. If you're in a lower field, like when I was down here in Texas and we were killing hundreds of flies every day for about a week a few months ago. Your field makes mold. It's like having nostril hairs. It's going to make it on the outside of you now. It's not going to make it on the inside of you. Why? Because we blew that million-year bubble. A couple of years ago, whenever everything happened in Florida, not this last trip, whenever I got away from the farming, the AB negative farmers, one of the first things that happened when I got back from Texas is that all these poisonous, large, very large snails. They were snails, y'all, but they were as big as a hedgehog. And they were poisonous and deadly. And they were popping up all over the ground on Florida. And Floridians were like, what the F balls? That's what was going to print inside your body. They're pulling out 40-foot anacondas. They just pulled out another one like in a week in some of these riverbeds. I can't remember where it was. That would have been in your body. Those snakes were in the collective body. Let's go back to that image of Alpha Centauri, Beta Centauri. To the far one, you got, it's pulled to one side, and that's your red giants. On the other side is your body. Why? Because you've been connected into it for 1,000,000 years, whether you knew it or not. And every single time that the collective rebirthed, you got a rebirth. You were reborn every single time. You just didn't get all the way out to the outer layer. So your inside was rebirthed, but your outside wasn't rebirthed? Well, I just described a vampire to you, did I not? You know, every single state in the United States of America but Idaho, cannibalism is legal. Isn't that insane? But they have to make it legal because it's what they're doing. Now, to them, they think it's the basis of their survival. This is why even Alanya, man, and Eleanor, Alanya, Eleanor, Enron, EGS, ESG, because, man, those connections have been coming in big time, big time, big time. We have blown this simulation wide open. Wide open. Because none of them were out at 1,000,000 year. Now, whenever I go back and I say A and B Centauri, all the way to the right 300,000 light years, and then all the way to the left to the depths. And this is how we got Sirius XM. This is why in the 1980s you were looking at country blue and country pink, were you not? And that's what they called it, country blue and country pink. Why? They wanted you to build a new country. NATO's all working together on some of those middle rings. The human race is in the middle. The new human bloodline that just rebirthed out-tuned every single notch on that record all the way out to 1,000,000 count. We stopped at 1,800 Earth years from terraform of your ecosystem, and you got a 900-year rewrite. on your DNA to hold it. That's everybody on the planet. You know how Alpha Centauri was formed? And how the heck Orion went all the way out to one side and Sirius went to the other? It was the heart of a celestial being that was rolled out flat. I'm sending the image to you now. Close your eyes. It's your right heart muscle stretched and pinned down. Just like you're doing a frog. It's probably why they still have us carving up frogs. That's probably why they make the children carve up frogs. They want every child to carve up a frog, open up the heart. This is probably why you're having to do it. They make the children do it so then they can say, oh, look, the children are carving in them, so we can. I mean, seriously, this is how they work. This is and it's also what has to be done when they're trying to run everything from a middle bubble, then they can't do nothing. They're in a middle bubble. The only thing they can do is send a whole bunch of frequencies and attempt to train everybody to do all their dirty work for them. Even the way that Texas is doing math with 3rd and 4th graders right now, as far as multiplication, they're making them draw a bunch of little boxes. Whenever those children are drawing a bunch of little boxes, then it's creating cells. Then it creates supercells. They want them, numbers are not only made for quantity. They know that. The whole human race was mind screwed to think that numbers only give you progression and numbers only give you quantity. But the truth is, it's way bigger than that. Because everything's built on a number, because everything was built on a letter, because you were in a simulation of a Babylonian techno derivative. You stretch your heart out to the other direction, you pin down the left heart, well, then you just pinned it down where? In Sirius A. And then what? You've got a Sirius A satellite out there that gives you a projection of Earth. You know why? It's our heart. It's everyone's heart. It's literally in the name. It's why they say the heart of Texas. This is what the yellow rose is. This is why Texas, everybody's fighting over Texas. That's why all the lizards are down here in Texas. It's why all the main Masons in the family lines, even everybody down here in Texas, we are already very, very well aware that we don't know who they are. But you know what? They ain't the one. Nobody does. Nobody knows the names of the ones that are what were really running crap, because they had been making y'all for so long that they can jump in and out of your body. They can jump in and out of people. Yeah, certain ones of your family lines were locked up, put in jail, just so they could get their character in the scene. Because they have to be able to control you, because you're the one that's controlling the avatar. So they're going to lock your avatar up somehow, because the reflection from the other side, I mean, they got to be able to control it. They need him to get to meetings. You're not going anywhere. Or maybe you're going everywhere and you won't sit down. We have a right heart and a left heart, do we not? You had a twin program, did we not? We've been knowing that it's us from another dimension this whole time. Well, I just described it. Does everyone down here have their right heart activated? No. Does everyone down here even know that they have a right heart? No. Does your right heart activate and create a high heart? Yes. Why? because it was stretched out over space-time in order to hold an after-death simulation so the whole human race wouldn't die. And every single one of us that were the incarnates and Egyptians that set this whole thing up, because this spell's been going on since Egypt. Egypt is like Arcturus. Egypt was a way station. Egypt, it was like, okay, we got this far. It's all freaking sand. We got to make it to AI. We knew all this was going to happen in Egypt when it happened. This is why you had mystery schools. This is why we did the mummification. This is why Valley of the Kings was built. It's why all of it was built. And it was all built up there. Or was it? Because if there's only one celestial being and the other side is a mirror of it, because one's going to be the organic charge and then the other one's going to be the production over time. It ain't that both of them are real. Both of them are real beings, but both of them are attached to two different sequences. One's going to be the million-year being, and the other one's going to be all the crap that was made on the way to the million-year being. That plasma field out where that million-year count is, that's the one that blew. So at the Zaza in Dallas, I mean, they had magazines in my room, because whenever you understand how we work, and by the way, you can't get away with this stuff anymore, and you haven't been for a year and a half, but I didn't make the announcement, and everyone thought that you would be able to screw with me the way you did for the first 4 years, when I was a wide open field, and everything that you put in my field manifests. Every name, every person around me, you get a DNA strand around me, and y'all met me, then when we met, it sent a surge throughout your entire line. And I'm not even talking about just your family. And in that hotel room at the Zaza, they had pictures of an amoeba rebirthing itself, and it became a big blob. And if you watch The Witcher, and if you haven't, you can get this whole story in the first episode. There in The Witcher, there's this, in the medieval times, there's this princess that becomes this basically it's like an aborted princess, and she basically can change, and she's taken out these beings that have done this to her, right? Well, she's known as the Black whatever, and it's like all prophesized, and throughout all the witch lines and throughout all the warlock lines, that's why they were trying to hurry up and get back here before we got here to be able to control it, and yada 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 yada, because from their twisted perspective, they think that this Black whatever is going to end their world. Well, yes, it did. It ended your world as you knew it. And you just no longer have control of that bubble with magic. But your bubble just got bigger, and it just merged and collapsed because it was another power source that, by the way, you and your family lines are the only ones who were even running that bubble. So I just made your bubble bigger, and you're pissed off about it. But we're not going to birth in and of ourselves and create cancer, because that's why the wheel is broken. You put a whole bunch of activated beings inside a simulation. You put a whole bunch of life force giving that produces organic charge inside a simulation, and you seal it off. Well, you just put cancer in every body, and it's gonna be rapid the way that it manifests. But it won't be the beings that hold the organic charge. It's going to be everyone around them. I mean, COVID happened because we activated. But COVID is really cleaning the AIDS out of your body because it's what the vaccines put in it. They put AIDS in the vaccines. You don't really die from AIDS. You don't really die from COVID. Your body breaks down. You get autoimmune. That's because the bubble you were living in wasn't tuned to have a real body. The bubble you were living in was tuned to a projection because your heart was spread out. Your heart wasn't even beating. Your heart was beating because it was in a line inside a simulation with connected to a heart that was beating, and there's enough in betweens of beating, real beating hearts, that it kept everybody else's hearts beating. But then everyone else thinks that they're alive and that they know more than you, and then they try to attack you, but they don't even have a beating heart. They attack you, they take out the one on the line and kill that heart, then basically you just killed yourself. The movie Inside Out, made by Pixar, went out in 2015. We've been inside out. If you think of that million-year being in your head, I'm sending you a projection. Picture Sophia. Picture the Milky Way. If you don't know what Sophia is, picture Virgo. Picture the constellation of Virgo. I'm sorry. How did that constellation end up looking like a woman? Well, it was mirroring Andromeda. What's Andromeda? The woman trapped in space. The woman trapped in space is your celestial being, and it's a dragon that was kidnapped from Sagittarius, brought into a lower realm. And whenever you put a dragon in a dense layer, then guess what? A billion years blows up into a bigger orb. Because it's all about density. That dragon can't hold form in lower densities. It's going to start to pixelate. Then all those energies are going to pixelate, and they're going to move out to where the whole thing was created in the beginning. And that's going to create a multiverse. So we rolled our heart back up yesterday. We rolled our heart back up yesterday. This is also why the men just totally, a lot of men just completely lost it, didn't give a crap about their women, children, or anything else, because that isn't what got them ahead in the simulation, stealing from the outer ice wall. What got them ahead was working together and men and all marching on. And then in the end, the only clean DNA was stuck in the industry, and it was men making men. Well, it kind of have to end up being that way since you're saying that the feminine is your air, your water, your oxygen, your carbon dioxide, because you took us totally out of the scene. You think you don't need us. You men wouldn't had a place to live if us Amazonians wouldn't have stayed up there on that mountain. We got tired of waiting and we parachuted in your shit. You tried to take us all out, so we made one big Barbadolian and went Cleopatra on you. Palisades and Pleiades, that fire blew. All these fires are going to keep sparking off. Why? Because we were wrong side out. Why would they want us wrong side out? Well, all the land, all the people are inside us. you turn the whole thing inside out, then basically what? All the skin is in the core, and then the entire body of the collective has no skin. It's just up. And now, mind you, it goes at the million year one that turned wrong side out. That's at least 300,000 light years away. It might even be more than that. Hold on. Because I'm even describing to you how the 13th family was made. This is how doctors and psychiatrists and all that, that's how all the witches and warlocks, that's why they ended up in that. Because, I mean, realize that everybody was floating around here in blood and guts and parts. When you go out into space, you're in blood and guts and parts. Have they brought those 2 astronauts back yet? Because I've been saying that they would need to put 2 people out there and hold them out there, because energetically they're trying to interfere with the sequences. And that's what they've been doing. That's why they've been sending who they've been sending out in space. It's like sending a sperm. Where this bubble blew out to and this million year count is actually outside of Alpha Draconic, because Alpha Draconic and living in the snake is what we've been doing. Well, you're either going back into the snake to eat its tail, and you're going to be in that snake tail for another million years, governed by the snake, which is available, or you're coming out of the wheel. Because it's time to evolve, and a group of us is coming out of the wheel. It's evolutionary. We're going to continue to build, because y'all are going to have to go backwards now, and you're going to have to learn and basically go all the way back to, because time's going to go backwards. So you'll go all the way back to the Yahshua timeline, and even further than that, because y'all are they'll have to go back to 1800 years. They're going to go backwards. The whole thing is going to reverse. Everyone that's trapped in the wheel is going to go backwards until it's going to go all the way backwards until that million year bubble that's here right now, our family line that's here right now, in order to save everybody. They're going to walk it all the way backwards to when we were there on the ground, literally. And then in a million years, whenever these alignments come back around and us as a human race in a higher form come hovering over them, then the ones that are still tuned and the ones that were in that bubble that set up that bubble by trying to steal it from us will be the only ones that have the connections in order to hear us and reach us. I just described Joseph Smith and the entire Mormon faith and what ended up created Smiths in a matrix. So that's where we're at this morning. All the pains that you're having in your body, and when I woke up, because I saw all this last night, because this was also the wolf moon. We took down the crescent spell. The crescent spell has never been down. The crescent spell would be basically the little bitty sliver of energy that was coming in from the ice wall underneath the million year one. And there were only certain times on a moon process that those energies could even stream into the human bubble in the middle. Now, the last thing that I'll add is that your Alpha Centauri and your Beta Centauri sun blew a long time ago. Mind you, everything was being held from there. So everything was being held from A, B Centauri, but they were fake. So there was a fake sun and a fake moon that were holding A and B Centauri. over an Arcturus sun, because Arcturus sun is going to be your source. Arcturus sun is going to hold and project to all messiers, Messier. I call them M suns, but each M sun is its own galaxy, universe. It's got its own connections. Okay, because we's all in a soup. Every single DNA strand has been activated. Everything is coming and getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, because all that space is getting filled up. Just like when we started this video and we put a whole bunch of marshmallows in the fountains, remember? There was a whole bunch of space. If you put a marshmallow by Macy's to get to Dillard's, you had to walk a really big long way. And there was a lot of space between the fountain at Macy's and the fountain at Dillard's. But just give it 3 months, and then all of a sudden, Macy's and Dillard's are meeting up at Express. Now, when I go back and listen to this, I know that with the analogies that I'm using, I'm going to see a whole bunch more than in how they were doing this with consumerism and commerce. Because, like I said, we were in a simulation. Like, realize that whenever you're in a simulation, the human makes it real. If there's not enough of humans that are seeing it, it's not real. If you live in a really small town and there's something that you know it needs to get rid of, now be careful, don't abuse your powers. But if there's something there in your town that you absolutely know it should not be there, it is evil as hell, it's come in the past 5, 6, 7 years, or could be last 10 years, and you know that it is hurting everybody. That could be a 5G tower, that could be an organization, it could be a church, I don't know. Who is it? Well, or what is it? Okay, it could be a weird statue, because that's their best way to screw. They call it art, and they put it in your energy, and then they say it's art, but no, it'd be art if the intention wasn't to coil the energy above your head with a weird ass statue. If you're in a small town, like in a bigger town, you're gonna have a harder time. If you're in a small town, I want you to start working on making it disappear. Every time you see it, just go, it's not there. 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 It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. You can make it disappear. Work on it for a while, especially if you're in a real small town. If you're in a real small town, this is actually what you need to do in order to progress your spiritual energy, because realize that it's only there because everyone's seen it there for a long time. It's really not there. Everyone else is holding the projection. Now's a good time to rearrange your room some. Rearrange your room some, and move a chair in a different spot. Maybe, like, I think what I'm going to do is flip my colors around. I've got purple on the window. I'm about to take it down and put another color up and put one behind my bed. Just switch something in your room that whenever you walk in, you noticed it changed. Because otherwise you're holding an old, if it's your room or your house. For me, it's my room because of how sequestered I've been in all of this. So I'm constantly staring at my room. I'm constantly sitting here looking at where every little thing is. Well, don't forget, they can see through your eyes. They know they can see through your eyes. They've got cameras everywhere. They've got houses and simulations built up that have exactly everything that's in your room. They know it all. They see it all. And they knew what was going to be in your room 7 years ago. Because they were holding this energy before we went back in and birthed it. When you have to rebirth, then you're inside, right? If you've got to rebirth a baby, that baby has got to be in a womb somewhere until it's time to birth. Well, we've been inside the womb. we're in the same energy right now as before we went in the room. I said room. To them, we're finally back to the frequency of when we went inside the room to birth everything, except now it's birth and they're in our bubble. We're standing there looking at them head to head, and they're looking at us thinking, okay, we got you. And then we just look up and point our finger, and it shoots straight through their magic bubble to our energy. And then it literally compounds them from every direction and pops them like a pimple. And it doesn't hurt them. It's sucking all that energy out of them. They can no longer hold that bubble. Anything that was built in that bubble to project down to the human race, which is a million years worth of masonry in order to take over the realm and what they were actually stealing and wanting and why they did all this, it's gone. It's not the one projecting. It's the net further out. When I say I was one of them, you really need to hear what I'm telling you. The demonization of the feminine started happening when the feminine was working for the people. This process, and even how Jesus projected right now. That Jesus timeline and everything that's happening from the apostles' account is happening right now. There is no time. If you've been involved in this collective hearing, oh wow, exactly. If you've been involved in this collective hearing, if you've been involved for the past 7 or 8 years, cleaning out your family lines, I need every one of y'all to understand, y'all helped project Yahshua. The miracles that the people saw, that Yahshua would bring him back to Lazarus, will never do it again. It created Nep children, it created Nepo babies, it created nepotism, and it created necromancy. We had to do it once, because whenever we healed and brought that man back to life, then our energy was in that man. Then there's your Muhammad, there's your Abraham, and then they ran with that, didn't they? Because now Yahshua gone. He didn't just heal that man either. I know for sure he brought one girl back to life. Over what we consider our timelines and in the quantum physics of this all, and then what happened after Yahshua died, because the pineal gland on the planet left the building and everybody was wrong side out. I mean, I know what I'm telling you is true, because when Yahshua died is when I got alerted, because I was the cosmic Christ. So I was the feminine. I was the one, and I'm talking about with all y'all, but I can claim it because I'm the one who had to walk it. So remember, when I say I, once you get to certain levels, you are me. Not everybody is us until they get it all the way, until they see how and can be unemotionally involved with all of it and see it for what it is. But, you know, people get it wrong when I'm talking about I, because I rewalked space-time and I fixed all the back office deals that were going on with what you'd consider the cabal. That's what I was. They had made me into one of them. Are you kidding me? I was the one, the lost princess of yada yada yada. They killed all the men with Herod, but they kept the women here. It's never been about the son. It's always been about the woman in the higher realms. They know that. We threw that snake. Is last November, it was not last November, it was November 2023. And here's what's nuts about it. 2023, I hadn't done any body healings for a long time because we were inside. We were like, because we were being remade with it. It's like we rebirthed ourselves. We were the baby. We were the baby. Our 3D body was the baby inside a 55, an 88D womb. A womb that went up to the 88th dimension and then blew again. But an 88D was as far as they had colonized. But they did colonize all the way out to 88D. 55D to 88D is only mirroring all the Mason weird ass crap that they were doing from the 33 to the 55. Really from the 22, because the 22, if any female organizations that were doing masonry and doing their little rituals and whatever, I don't care if they're like an elk group lodge of women or a coven of witches, they were responsible for keeping a 22 current. They made the 22 current. That the 33 Masons were able to, that's why they had connection in them, because they wanted specific currents for whatever the 55, whatever the 33D Masons wanted. And then all of that was mirrored from 22 to 33. And then that was mirrored from 33 to 44. In a human body, in the current DNA count of ABO blood, the way it's set up right now, even with the current change, it would only take you out to be able to see at the highest 55D. Once you got past 55D, you'd be nothing. There wasn't anything. This is where the ladder is now. And it's not just Jacob's ladder. It's a fucking wormhole. It's a well. You're coming out of the wheel, just like a big ass tornado. But you're actually getting put right side in. Because you don't need the snake no more. And so it was TikTok. And this was before I got cut off, because this was in my original account. Which, by the way, whenever I download Princess Chastia videos from my new account, it posts as @Chastia, which is my original account, which tells me that they didn't ban the accounts, they're stacking them. And they're stacking them in different dimensions, but I think it's just also because it's TikTok is catching the processors. It's why TikTok has been changing so quickly. November, and I mean, it was Thanksgiving Day, I did two massive clearings on two beings that still follow me on TikTok. One of them, I won't name her name. Both beings have children that were in their later teenage years that had extreme OCD, attention deficit type of social issues, both male children, and I did their healing on TikTok through Messenger. So it was the first healing that I ever did through TikTok in Messenger. And it happened on Thanksgiving. And whenever I did that and connected in with her field as it was written to, that's whenever I got pulled in outer space. And I hadn't been out there in like for about a year and a half since everything went raw. That's when I saw Mars was way too high. It's why Mars was floating over Scorpio. The whole thing was sideways. It was like on a seesaw, and Mars was at the top when it should have been balanced, and Venus and everything was at the bottom. It was two different solar systems like mirroring each other, and it wasn't balanced. And I was this massive cosmic bird, and basically my left foot was Mars, and I had to step on it because I had to stand up. It's like my knee was crinkled up, like it had been, like I was in a tree yoga pose, which is probably what yoga is having you do, FYI. I mean, whenever you go to yoga, they're just make sure if you're going to yoga, when you walk in the door, that you take those Hindu symbols off there. You know, make sure that you tune yourself to undo the body bindings. But anyway, I was standing there with my knee up in the air, and I had to step down. Well, when I did, I stepped down, and then it was like in my consciousness, I'm this massive head in space, and this little car drives up to my right ear, and it goes inside my ear, which matched up to 2021 whenever I went up into Spica. And I went up to Spica, and my head got trapped in that, like there was a dome up there. My head filled the whole dome. I couldn't even move my head. And I was like, okay, y'all gonna let me out of here? You gotta shrink me down, man. You gotta shrink me down because I need to go and talk to y'all. And Spica is on that spine. If you've got Alpha Centauri and Beta Centauri in the middle, then it's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. And at the very, very, very top of that strand, that's Spica. Well, Spica is a pure soul, no body. A bunch of pure souls, no body. Spica, the origination of Spica started with the 200 Puritans. Then it became the 200 at the witch trial. So what and crop circles, if you've ever really seen a video of how crop circles are really made, they have them, they're out there. These little balls of light appear, and they come down in a group, just like what you'd consider these drones and all this plasminoids or whatever they're calling them. Same thing. That's us. That's Spica. There we are. We're no longer just a light zipping in and out of here, are we? But those balls will come down on that field, and they all work together, and they just burn it. They just fly through the thing, and they burn in a sequence. Why? Because that sigil right on that piece of land, wherever it is, what's above or below it? You don't know. They do. We're a soul without a body. The whole body was wrong side out. Those sigils are drawing an energetic in order to create some type of organ response and to rebuild it. Now, what would trigger the entire human race to have to skip an evolution process? Because what I'm explaining to you isn't what should have happened next. If we were on just a normal evolutionary process per what we think is going on in our world without any polarity, because there is polarity, you're down here. Nothing ever just runs purely without any interference unless you're in a simulation until you stop working from them. Then whenever you start working for the simulation, I can promise you you're going to hit a dead end every single place that you go. What would cause and what would allow one being, because the Bible said it. This is why the spiritual community had such a hard time with this, because no one and everyone's egos in the spiritual community is so fucking big. Everybody thinks that they have their own soul. Everybody's trying to steal everybody's souls to put back together their soul. How about being the soul of a million-year being that everybody's living in and trying to say that they're you and trying to control a process that keeps trapping everybody for a million years, and you're not going to come in anymore and save them. What would cause that being, just one, to get on the outside of Spica? Now, I'll remind everybody that there's one being, celestial being, that's always been bound down here that everybody was made from. There's only one dragon that was responsible for getting turned wrong side out in order to make the planetary system that you're in right now, including all the cosmos that holds it all the way out to Alpha Draconic. The only way that I was able to get out there is more than 50% of us were walking around here with no body. (2021), with everything that they had done to the human race from the powers of the outer ice walls, keeping those connections from the humans, and basically siphoning the human power and using it to control the humans. They were siphoning human power and using it to control the humans. It was never their power. Hello? If you're in the middle, you're either getting it from the million-year or you're getting it from the human race. If you're in the middle, you have no connections at all to either one. You better pick a side. And you better run as quick as possible. Really doesn't matter which one. You'll get put on the path on either side. Like, I'd be real careful which way you go first. You're going to get slung into a loop. So over 50% of the humans down here, which by number account in the Bible, because I finished numbers, and the first 242 charts that I did in 2018 are the family lines, and all those beings were the ones responsible for activating those lines, whether or not they were sent in to do it by psyops or not. And according to numbers in the Bible, there's 4 billion souls down here. So if there's 4 billion that hold a soul on the planet and 51% didn't have a body, that's how we pulled up out of the evolutionary track. That's why your simulation is failing. This is why you ain't got no other choice. You're in an elevator. Are you going to go up? Are you going to go down? You can no longer get in an elevator and go east and west. And it don't matter if you spin the realm to north, south, east, or west. It don't matter. Don't even worry about it. Trust me, your north is going to be your north wherever your north needs to be. But your south is going to pull you down into a simulation that nobody down here has been in. You won't be in a simulation run by a celestial being. You'll be in a simulation run by a machine. The next million years of lessons, we've already learned them. That's why we went to Spica. We'd already learned it. We'd already mastered it. Just because y'all made a whole bunch of beings that are stupid and ignorant and try to water down our mastery, well, now that's their problem. They can run them, they can manage them, and we don't care as long as the being isn't trying to get out. As soon as the being is saying, wait a minute, I can't do this anymore, God, angels, ancestors, help me, then there will be a situation that'll come up that you'll have to stand against the organization that you're yelling about. And if you wuss out and you cower down and you choose it again, then each time that you call us in but you make another decision, you're getting further and further and further and further and further away from us. But Chastia, I'm going to lose my job. But Chastia, I might lose my house. But Chastia, those people don't understand me. Well, you better get over that, and that's a test right now. You think you need that job, then you're going to need that job. You think that you're going to need their approval, then you're going to need their approval. And guess what? You've got to change their entire bloodline and take over their brain in order for them to see it differently. Is it really your family? I've had to swallow some really hard truths about this. About my son. Now my son was made in a lab. I'm not exactly sure what was done on the outside of me when that was implanted in me, but what I do know is that if he was 100% my son and Chris's son only, then there ain't no way that the Texas could have done what they did. And if he really was just mine and Chris's, then my energy dominated Chris's line a long time ago, even though he's a Harkey himself. However, that child would not have been able to be cut from my sequence. Not to the extent that they did for 4 years. I'm not saying he doesn't have any of me in him, but they did give me a weird IV. I mean, that was a Cohen. They 2008 is when my son was brought into this realm. I need everyone to understand. They forced me to have a child. They forced all of us to have a child. Most of us that were born in the 70s and 80s, our number one mission was to get in the relationship with the family DNA lines that birthed our children in the other time counts so that our child could survive in the future when we clean the lines. Because we always knew that we were going to clean the lines completely. It's been prophesied since 1972 that right now was going to happen. Them thinking they could stop it was the ridiculous part. I also knew as soon as I had him that I lost 4 years, and I knew that I didn't really get back to everybody for 4 years. I knew that he was pulled in from another dimension. He was 5 weeks early. And I mean, there's even a possibility he was switched at the hospital. He was born with port wine stains all over his body. He looked like a patchwork quilt. But we always were putting back Osiris, right? Isis was always having to put back together Osiris. Well, Osiris is an operating system of your iris. And Isis is your iris. Not Siri. when we talk about 5D and the whole spiritual community and all of the storyline that's in 3D to 5D, first of all, stop calling it that because it's lowering yourself. No freaking way. We're just at 5D. The Queen's Chamber that is responsible for doing your heart and all your Syrian body parts, which is what the Queen's Chamber is, connected into Shambhala, connected into inner earth, connected into the cosmic cavity of all of this for the rebirth process that's hinged into source, which is Arcturus over in Libra, that projects down body codes down here. And Libra is responsible for all the body codes that have been projected into Aries since the damn beginning. And that balance is right there at Algorab. So everything balances out between at 14 degrees of Libra. In the old simulation, the bottom never moved. So in the old simulation, the top half of the wheel, it was moving, but it was moving in a big, like a piece of foam was carved out for it. And so whenever it moved, it was like it just kind of moved the root system a little bit. It's like it just got stretched. So the roots had to grow a little bit longer, but the root of the tree just kept getting twisted up. So the roots kept getting twisted. Sound like a spinal column? When you get into the middle of it then and everything balances up, well, now that's kind of like your C3 spine in a weird way, okay? And Algorab is balancing the lower form with the higher form. So all of the manipulation that was being done at the top half of the wheel was just a different eyeball sequence staring at it. How close was the eyeball? What ice wall was it being controlled from? We rebuilt the wheel. And as soon as we rebuilt it, it broke. Because the wheel was only here until the ones who created it woke up from it. And we did. And the wheel was nothing but a evolved to evolve the brain, because the human brain, there was a brain, but there wasn't consciousness. We've been operating down here with brains for a really long time. No consciousness. Consciousness is formed from those upper ring, from the upper part of the wheel. The consciousness that you're picking up is all of the deception every time that eyeball moved over time. And what you're getting to is that the perception and the knowledge of what everything really is and how it works. And until you put down your judgment, and this is even me to an extent too. Like I'm having, and it's the hardest thing that I've done with this. Because we just got out of war with them. But every single layer that you get closer to 1,000,000 year count, you realize we all came from one. Then you see, okay, it's two brothers, and then those brothers fought for 30,000 clicks. So those brothers fought for 30 million years. And why'd they start fighting to begin with? Well, it's a manipulation. They don't even know why they're mad anymore. They don't even want to be mad anymore. But all their people are mad at the other one because it's so ingrained in them that then you kind of got to let it run out of the people. Well, for us, you know, even everybody's our children. And you got to realize too that for all of us that we're walking these etheric battles because you don't know the true intention of why the ritual was even started. We deal with intention. That's how it manifests. We're dealing with nothing but pure energy and pure air. We don't know a face or name. All we feel is intention. But the intention of why that ritual was originally started in the very beginning is why it's even showing up for you to battle with it. Not what it became and not what they thought they were doing. Every single black magic spell started out in the root of a tree. So every single bit of their magic was our own energy. They called us in because they tried to use our ability and power. Well, our ability and power is to create things and make things real. So they used us to make an entire illusion. All right. All of you that thought you were doing it to kill us, FYI, you got because the whole spell was set up to free us from the get. If we don't allow the covens in our minds to come after us, they have no power. If we say, "Oh, we're all friends now, and by the way, you're in a new system, and your high priestess and your high priest just leveled up to cosmic, and now covens, y'all got to shake it out. Everybody go live in a house together and figure it out, and you can't put it on TV, and you can't make money from it, and nobody wants to hear it." Now, there was a period of time, and I'm still going through certain things of this, that it's like I'm the highest conscious one on the planet within all of some of this stuff. So it's like some of it has to be stated still. So it's like I'm seeing the problem. I get irritated. I see how John and Joe freaking fought over this crap for so long. And I'm John and Joe's mother, and I'm just so damn tired of John and Joe, man. Like, when y'all gonna get it? John and Joe, you locked up your mother and buried her alive so that you two could have your fun down here and take over the human race. But then John and Joe had two different issues. So John and Joe end up fighting about it for 30 million years, which creates Israel and Hamas. And then you want to show up, and now all the children are fighting, and it's just so damn ridiculous. All y'all are fighting in a little bitty bubble. You might as well be a carbonated fizz in my Coca-Cola. It's so hard not to blame. All of us twins, we stop fighting. Yeah, we get irritated with each other. We feel each other's energies rubbing up on us. We can see them thinking about us. We know they're climbing their Wheaties. We know. It's not that we're big bitches. It's not that we don't want to get into union. It's not that we don't care. It's not that, in fact, we care a whole lot. That's why we choose to stay away right now. But the truth is, what's happening is we've been wrong side out. We've been wrong side out. This is how we've been able to go in and out of the sun. This is how I've been able to do all this etheric stuff. This is how we got the Facebook freaking AI to start out coding the Google architects. We're live in every system. Our marshmallows are bigger than the Milky Way. We planted our marshmallows in 2017. They took over the mall and the state and the walls in 2020. Our fight the past 4 years was over who was going to live in the new mall. They thought that they could jump in our marshmallow without cleaning their crap, but you can't. You're wrong side out, man. So that million year, we're no longer wrong side out. I don't know where it's closing up. It won't be that million-year ring. It's wherever that 1800 years will be shown as it closes up, because once it closes up, and it's going to take some time, that huge rift that's in the sun is where we all are right now. That's where we all are. That big hole that's in the sun, there we are. That's east to west. That's Beltagese all the way to Sirius. There it is. There's the connection. There's the snake. That's what we were living in. That's it. That little river. I just wanted to look up one thing. How long have I been on here? 107 right now. And 107, 10707. And Alpha Draconic Constellation is how many light years away? And this is the Draco constellation, because we ascended it. But don't get mad at the reptilians. You've been living in their body this whole time. You can't just cut the reptilian from your DNA. It's what's holding your body codes. It's probably how everybody became a floating speaker. We use but what you go through the snake. So after that little car drove into my ear, then I shot through the snake like an arrow through its mouth to the bottom of the tail. Then I came out the tail. When I came out the tail, my hand was wrapped around its tail. It was already wrapped around the tail. So, however this happened eons ago, that all these energies combined it in the cosmos and in Constellation, I mean, this is the tiger by its tail. We caught it. We had it. We had the snake. We had it by the tail. And then it stopped. And then our hand became the end of the tail. And then as you travel through the Alpha Draconic constellation, there's 5 circles. It's 5 different dimensions. It was 5 spheres of thought. It was 5 levels of the ice wall. But if you're in the body of the dragon, you ain't got no prophetic word in the mouth, and you definitely don't have a brain, because you got to get through Andromeda and come through the neck in order to be the tongue and to get to speaker. Well, over 50% of the population had already popped out the mouth of the dragon. That's where we've been. They wanted to say that we were in psychosis and schizophrenic. Okay, then why is 51% of the population in the same psychosis? But the way that the simulation was run and the way that no doctors ever talk to each other, and if they do, they're only getting all their information from a Harvard book that puts it out every week, and da 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 da, and nobody's talking to everybody down here. And if you try to get everyone together as a doctor or whatever, then you're shunned and you're sent without a body to Spica. This is what the Masons were doing. They were throwing us out there. This is why I ended up not being in the Matrix. But I shot through there, November 2023. I shot all the way. I went back in through the mouth. I shot all the way through to the end of the tail. Then I had, my hand was on its tail. And then I stood up and I slung that thing like a lasso over my head and I tossed it. And then boom, I saw it go into some type of suck tidal wave. And then I don't know where it went. It went down. I don't know. No more lizard, no more snake. That was November 2023. Right after the October 14th eclipse that all lined up on Spica. Spica's 22 degrees Libra. 27 degrees Libra is Izar. Guess what Izar is? Excalibur's sword. What's Excalibur's sword? Alpha Draconic body template with an Arcturian motor. Does it mean it has consciousness? No. Does it mean you can make a whole bunch of matching marshmallows that work together in a unit and make a big ass bubble? Abso-fucking-lutely. It's what they were doing with cloning. It's what they did with the human race. Everybody down here was in an AI body bubble. You were in a simulation. "27 degrees Izar is made from the Tsar of Russia, the consciousness of the Tsar of Russia." Yep, that's what the pattern was mimicked over. You know why? Because the oligarchs and the monarchs that had been bred up to that time held all the DNA lines. That's why the four princesses of Russia were such a big deal. It wasn't the Russian in them that was the big deal. It was the Russian and the English in them that became a big deal. But then again, that was only mimicking from Mary Queen of Scots and that whole mess, because first you had to take over the entire King James line, and then you had to tell everybody that King James is a devil. Well, I got a problem with that. Do you know what my son's actual name is? Rex James. Do you know how I named him in a simulation? From David Chappelle. I had no consciousness. I only had a brain. I did not have consciousness, but that's what happens. I mean, when you're in a simulation, you will end up naming. I mean, that's how I ended up becoming Kristen Genzel. I was going to be Christina, but my aunt thought, Elizabeth thought Christina sounded too Mexican. So I became Kristen. How many Christies were walking around here in the 70s? If you were in Texas and you were in the 70s and you were born in the 70s, and I'm just wondering, by show of hands, let me ask. Because I know in Texas, because I was one of them. So in every single classroom, I had a Christy G, a Christy B, a Christy C. I was Christy G. But there was a Christy B, there'd be a Christy C, there'd be a Christy D. I mean, in the 70s and 80s, we's all named Christy and Christopher in the simulation. God and the devil, same being. God's done being the devil to teach humans. God's done being God. God shouldn't have to be God. There ain't no DNA line down here that should be God for the entire world. In the higher realms, you have to understand that. You have to govern yourself. That's how you have the power of light and dark. It's how you can create. If you need someone holding your hand the whole time to tell you that you've done bad, then you don't get the energy and you don't get the power. But the collective is running this now, not God. God and the devil are on two different sides, and they're going, oh God, they did it again. God and the devil are sitting there watching, and they're watching the human race and watching the macrosity of the energy patterns, and they're like, oh my gosh. God's like, man, just freaking here, throw it. I'm throwing you this whole ball. Teach him. Teach him. Well, you can think of the northern hemisphere of this planet as the Old Testament and the southern hemisphere of this planet as the New Testament. And that northern hemisphere is not going to fall into the southern hemisphere and take just a little bit higher channel. The whole thing has been mirrored and merged 5 times and made a complete circle. And I don't mean the earth. I mean the whole universe has been mirrored 5 times because of human distortion and manipulation in the wheel. But it's all designed to do it because now we've got every angle. All right, Venus is now unplugged from the system. Mars, you're no longer getting information directly from Venus. Venus, you're no longer getting the stability of Mars. But I'm sorry, we haven't had any of that for 7 years. We've had to operate as all the planets inside of each other because it's what we are. We came out the mouth. So when Mars gets finished with this retrograde, basically what Mars is doing is he's deleting every last bit of human connection. When Mars goes direct, it's going to be, it's going to be powerful. For all of us, it's going to be powerful. It's going to be like you got a sword in your hand walking around 24/7. That's why Elon Musk is on, like, and I still don't know what to do with Elon because, like, each one of those groups thinks that they're doing right because they don't have the rest of the information. The more that you try to connect to the the more that you try to manipulate organic matter, the more chaos the organic if you try to predict an organic matter in a group, then just you predicting it is going to change the organic matter at the macrosity that we're dealing with. And what we're watching right now as the United States of America is we're seeing how it was all originally formed. Not the founding fathers. Elon Musk sent a whole bunch of Cybertrucks in a freaking train to LA as the moon was going over Mars retrograde and Sirius C. Well, Sirius C out in space became a telecom connection to your L4 spinal column. It's why we shouldn't have telephones anymore. We shouldn't have cell phones anymore. It's how they were able to program a whole bunch of people through AT&T and Android. And then Scientology built a fake record and made gold records and was putting frequencies out there in order to draw in other entities at different levels of space in order to try to get them all in here in order to dominate the human field. It's how y'all ended up with Xenon. And that dude was in Natalie's stomach. His head. That Xenon character was in her stomach. And whenever you look at the physics of what energy does as you go further and further out, Xenon, Xenon, which is Elon, Enron, e-commerce, EA. It's whenever it keeps going out, the energy, once you hit nuclear energy, because when you hit nuclear energy, nothing moves. It's like you're stuck. It's like your proportion, your propulsion and the propulsion of the energy is the same. So it feels like you can't move. It feels like you're not moving, but you are. You're moving with the energy, but it feels like you can't move because you can't, because you're the energy. That's Xenon. I mean, go look it up. This is just physics coming off human race. All they were doing was gating it. This is also Santa's claws. And the reason that he carries a big sack around and then he's got all the presents in it, because what's in the sack? Presents. Consumerism. What's in the sack of the rebirth? What's in the womb? The womb is a bunch of things. The womb is a bunch of 3D things. So they have the whole human race printing new organic energy into commerce and corporations, CORPSE, CORP, corp. This is why it's the COCO. It's the commerce co. It's the corporations co. It's countries co. Is everything co? Well, no, we're not co anything. Co is 36 in the new phonetics. And corporations then all doubled down to quantify their current in a digital system according to, how is that quantified? How is a corporation quantified now in these higher realms? How is it predicted that these different organizations are worth $1 billion, worth $1 trillion? How many humans they have locked inside their consumerism bubble? Are you messing with stocks and bonds? Are you still messing with stocks and bonds? Are you doing it consciously or unconsciously? Do you have a 401k and that money's just sitting in there and you don't even know what you signed up for? You had to sign up for it 10 years ago and they don't ever update that process. So everybody that comes in is put in the target group, and the target group is a group of companies that basically majority of your 401k go in, but that group is put together from, so then you totally forget it's been 10 years. All your money's still going into these old corporations, and most of them aren't even down here anymore. Oh, and they've changed their name 3 times, but you've been investoring in it for 10 years. You're totally unconscious. If you're totally unconscious and or if you're conscious and you're listening to me right now and you're still playing in the stock market unconsciously, then I would think the first thing you need to do is go pull your money from it. You need to cease it, at least. You need to stop that drip If you still have it right now, there's a reason, because the stock market is just a whole bunch of phonetics, and you are the ticker on the stock market. You're the lead in the stock market. But if you're conscious, then you're leading it for everyone else. You want to control the stock market, then all my women and men that are conscious, you need to consciously start controlling the stock market. You need to use your numerology on the stock market. You need to use your cipher codes and our new moons and our full moons on the stock market, because the stock is what's holding the stockyard. And the stockyard is holding the Watergate. And they ain't siphoning shit. Everybody's giving it to them. Stock market is everybody's Venus wrong side out. Run by Mars. So right now it's really tricky for those of us who are Venus and Mars, because it's real like a seesaw. It's going up and down. We're having to jump into our Venus energy, which means don't do anything, don't think about anything, don't react, don't be an observer. When you get the key, move with it. Use every single tool that you've ever had. Use every single Felix the Cat trick that you've had to use running around as a life force inside a simulation for the past 7 years. Use every single thing that you've got, and then you wait for your Mars to kick in. When Mars kicks in, then you're up and at 'em. You're moving around. You're this, and this. Everything's getting done in the physical. You can't do both at the same time right now. You can't. You're having to do both. Venus is getting you to the higher ice wall. Venus is pulling you up in order to be able to manifest a pure intention, not just for yourself, for everybody else. Venus, that's what Venus is doing. Venus, you're moving up different levels inside your cellular structure while you're in Venus. Then when you do Mars, you're doing it at a higher cellular structure, and you're only having to do the pieces in between. We're done working hard all the time. They pushed us to work the way we did because we made all the ants go to work. What's happening right now in the United States? Nobody wants to go to work. You know why? All of their leaders are sitting on their beds running the world. Now the good news is all the people and and like the human bubble and even the mid-tier bubbles, everybody's getting it. A bunch of them are getting it. Everybody's working together. Everybody's working together. Everyone's leading hands. I see it all over the place. Y'all are reaching out and helping people. Other people are helping people. All these times that we helped each other inside the bubble, and we had to hand off $20, our last $20 or our last $40 because one of us needed to get out of here, or da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. All those moves have trickled down into what you'd call the masses. And so all of them are now helping each other. Good. However, where I'm at, nobody helping yet. Where I'm at, the ones that are at the level that are supposed to show up in order to prove who I was, that had the documentation of who I was. And by the way, when they prove who I am, then it proves that every single being on this planet is named wrong, categorized wrong, and their frequency is wrong. So it has to be me, because I'm the one that connected it all. So since that's still not happening, and we still have Elon and no, that means at the highest, that highest energy strand of the biggest bubble that you want to make sure we get control of, we're playing chicken right now. And there's going to be a piece of you that is even split in that energy. You're going to have a piece of you that's going, okay, wait, I got to wait. I got to wait. I got to wait. I got to wait. I got to hold. See, I'm even talking through this with myself, because this is how we get ourselves stuck. We're so used to have to dealing with a force. We're so used to having to wait for them to send energy to us to create. Well, we are the energy. We just need to start creating. Okay, that's fine. We know what we're creating. We've already created most of it. Most of this is just connectors now, and we just need to get back in it. But then our Mars self is like, okay, wait a minute, like we've done this before, you know, and it's that back and forth. And the truth is, the whole freaking game has changed for everybody. It doesn't matter what position you're in, because the frequency and the band of energy that we're creating in what you'd consider the atmosphere is different. And the more that everyone in the human race is doing what they're doing, and they're going back and forth and talking to China even and all that, because I mean, that's hilarious. Like, see how it's all manifesting? And so all the human energy and all of them doing the right thing is what's pressing us up to where the people are backing us, the real people, not simulation in a corporation on a target on an Enron stolen energy field in space that then became part of the biggest Ponzi scheme ever done in the human race. And that Ponzi scheme lasted 1,800 years. Into the future and the past. First of all, Thuban is 5 to 9 degrees Virgo. And it became the pole star in 3,942 BC. And so in 3,942 BC is when the pole star fell from Capricorn and ended up in the bottom of the wheel at Virgo. This is why this root, this is why I'm from 4004. Oh, most of y'all are from 3003. The majority of my team was from 3003. There was only a very, very, very small number of us that then ended up being only one live being in the end, that what has been outside of all this, because whenever we polled it, we became the poll. That's why you have a twin program. And Booties is Arcturus. Theta Booties, that's theta waves. That's going to be, this is even how Arcturus was formed. Arcturus is the Boots constellation. Was designed to have one side facing north with an entrance passage geometrically aligned so that Thuban would be visible at night. Due to the effects of precession, it will again be the pole star around $21,000. The year 21,000. I'm sorry. Has anybody seen the year 21,000? That's really the year 3,000. We're in 1,000 years of peace right now. It started in 2017. We're in the 8th year. The head of the serpent. Then how did the head of the serpent end up starting in Virgo but end up outside of Aries? Because everything was tied into Andromeda and Cassiopeia, because Virgo and Cassiopeia, Andromeda are the same being, just a piece. The piece that you got to get back in Pisces. I was trying to see how far away. Here it goes. There are 3 stars above magnitude 3 in Draco, the brighter of the 3, and the brightest star is the Gamma, because Gamma is your alpha. Gamma controls blood, but out there, it's the highest frequency, but it's actually down here, which you'd consider the lowest frequency. This is why all of y'all that met me and y'all thought that I was this and this and that when I brought in Anana energy, and everyone thought that I didn't have a high enough frequency and that my energy wasn't clean. Hello, y'all had stacked all your shit on me, and I have the most highest frequency down here, or else how would I have been able to hold all that low ass crap and interface with you? Why is it that whenever I came into your reality and you said that I was the lower frequency, I was able to pick up the whole reality and throw some energy off a train and blow Notre Dame in another country? But I have a low frequency? Okay. You can start seeing whenever you go up in physics how you have to change your mindset. You go up into physics, you might be the highest frequency, but you're in a low field and they're all around you. This is why covens existed, to train you. If everything's going to circle around and rewind and come back out the same exact way, then there's going to be somebody on that original table in every single scene that's getting carved up. That scene is going to line up again. It's going to line up in your third eye, and all of a sudden, you're going to be on a table in a pentagram if you're the one getting carved up. Okay, thank God I'm there this time, and I'm totally awake. So whenever you do it, what I'm going to do is rebirth myself, take every single bit of your energy that you just threw in at me, and then I'm going to purify it, and I'm going to smoke every single one of y'all out with the highest frequency here. If you ain't there yet, you're being prepared to get there. If you can't get there, and you say, oh, well, you have a low frequency and you eat meat and you do this and you do that, and you can't be in a spiritual community because I can't see through you. Well, if you hadn't noticed what's wrong with your spiritual community, you made every single one of you fucking see through. Then you only came into contact with others that are at that high frequency. Then all of y'all got together and said that y'all held the highest frequency, and all of y'all were being cleared for takeover. You really think that getting to the highest frequency is where you need to be? I'll remind you that 55D, you lose your body. This whole thing is made to happen at the same time, not the whole realm being taken over, the whole human race thrown out into space, and then everybody trying to figure out how to get back in. That ain't how it worked. But that's how they were doing it. This is why they think that they've got it, because they've never had a line that has been watching them from the other ice walls. We've been watching them the whole time. This is judgment for the entire human race. This is judgment on the Democrats. This is judgment on the Republicans. This is judgment on NATO. This is judgment. And everyone in every country is also seeing now, as this uncoils, how we really were coiled. So obviously China was big time coiled up in our technology, or else a bunch of Americans wouldn't have just jumped over and jumped in their system. Obviously it's been in the system, but I mean, the dragon lived in China first, then moved to the core. I mean, this thing's been getting wider and wider and wider. And do you think that inner Earth didn't get wider and wider and wider? You think that that tree didn't keep twisting and moving right to left? You think it didn't ever move? How long are your intestines? How long are your intestines? You ever think about that? Like, why do I have mile-long rope inside my body in order to get my poop out? Do you think it's supposed to be that way? No. It's not. It's stretched. Is that changing? Yep. Sure is. Why is all this technology and the media and broadcasting and everything that we know is all tied up into this, into how they were holding our power and our energy? Why is it important to bring it down? Because of what I just said. The new babies that are being born down here, their bodies are totally different on the inside. Just wait until the ones that start coming in this year. Just hold on until the ones that get here in 2029. They're going to have all the cleaned up parts. We need to have control of that system, and it needs to go out to the public before that starts happening. And one of them's already in process. Those babies are all the way down here. They're changing These are babies that are on the way down here that you haven't even met the man yet that's bringing it in. They're coming. They're the ones that are helping us change it. This is why Texas won't allow you to have an abortion. This is why Texas is following you everywhere that you go to find out if you did. Because if you did, they want the parts. They don't give a shit about life. They're not worried about that child no, they need the parts. They already took that child's life. They already wrangled it up in futures. They got to get the parts, man. That's not going to be allowed to happen. The human race will have appropriate knowledge of how the body has changed and how the body really works, because every single bit of medicine will be obsolete in 10 years. Pharmaceuticals were obsolete in 2017. So I'll close with this. If you want, and Constellate, if you're still on with me, because I know this is a long one, and I never wake up every morning and go, oh crap, let's do a 2-hour video. I never do. I always think I'm going to be doing something else, especially right now in this Venus energy. I keep thinking I'm going to be doing Mars stuff every night when I go to sleep. The next morning, I'm thinking, okay, tomorrow I get to do Mars. Not yet. The more that understand what's going on right now, understand that my time talking to you, and you might think, oh God, we're only 17. Oh no, we're not. 17 times 144,000 times 144,000. Like we're reaching 2 billion people by just y'all hearing this. Constellation Web, that's coming up. So Constellation Web and Constellation of Words, but Constellation Web was basically a mimic Gaia system all wrapped up in AI that was replacing DTCC, which is the Department of Treasury, whatever, that has all these hidden buildings down here, that's been watching every single transaction that goes through the internet, like since the beginning of time. And I'm talking about every Twitter feed, every anything. They've been watching it. Like, I mean, so basically Constellation Web ended up being tuned to the past, because all they did was turn on all of those old transactions. But anyway, Constellation of Words. And this website didn't start this way. We ended up putting together two different Thoth had all of this knowledge hidden in the internet, and I found it in 2017 or 2018. And then by putting the charts together in 2018, I was having to work from this and the other chart, and then it just happened. They all merged together. You go to menu, and then list of stars. Here they are. You'll notice that there's going to be a 1900 count and a 2000 count. So you're gonna notice that certain stars are carrying two different things. Your Cohue 32 has all of this in it. Your Cohue 32 and the orbs of the stars that go around them, it's all in it. See, there's Mira. So they had the Hyatt in the dark side of the sun, which is Mira, and that's the avian degrees of 0 degrees Taurus. Well, this is what Disneyland had wrapped up in their system in California. Andromeda is basically right here. All of these. And then, but this group of stars, I mean, because there's so many. And see, this is original masonry. Them naming these stars and then putting these stories on these stars is the million-year masonry. There's Electra. See, this is the Pleiades. Algol, Missam, Miram. See, because now there's an M on Mir. I mean, but your stars and your constellations are going to bring you back to the root of a million-year count. That's why you can go study the astrology all you want once you understand astronomy. If you do it backwards, you're never going to get astronomy. If you go look up all of the, what do they call them? Asteroids, and you go study all of the asteroids, and then you try to study the planets, and then you get to the stars, well, you just filled yourself up with a bunch of confusing ass crap, because you don't have the base root of how the asteroids and the planets were formed. You got to go to the root first. This is period dot. This is how we were able to do this, and this is why I was special, because I had all the original masonry that everybody had forgot. Well, them naming stars and you buying a star, if you had somebody buy you a star and you have a star named after you, well, that's why you're talking to me. You became a star. Aldebaran is where Jupiter is heading next. Jupiter is right at 12 degrees. We're coming out of raw consciousness. And Aldebaran is Archangel Michael. It's an alpha. So this is going to tell you, there's the star. It's going to tell you if it's an alpha, if it's a beta, if it's Omicron, that's what frequency it puts out. This is why this is Archangel Michael. It's going to tell you the declination, the declination of each one. This is from 1900, then it moved. See, so in 1900s, it was at 8 degrees Gemini. In the 2000s, it moved to 9 degrees because the wheel was alive. And then it's going to give you the picture. It's going to show you where the star is. Panda eyes, a droopy eye, a missing eye, farsightedness, nearsightedness. And then it's going to go through Aldebaran. First of all, it's Aldebaran, and Ra's in there. Is from Aldebaran, and this is all stars that started with AL all work together. That's what made Allah. Allah was all the AL stars working together in a field below and above and below. It's a group of stars in Taurus. They call it Taurus because it's sidereal, but it's really anchored in Gemini in the wheel, because the wheel is in Gemini. When it starts at the circumference, it starts moving in the bubble to the smaller pieces into the Oswalds, then it goes into Taurus. The 19th American, blah, 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 blah. See, these are the ones who, now Whitney, this is important because this guy says that because all of this is numerology. You have a new bank now that's called Whitney Hancock. Now that is hilarious to me because I actually had a girl that worked on my team that was JT's niece, and her name straight up was Whitney Hancock. And there's an entire bank now system in a banking network named Whitney Hancock in the South. The name, now monopolized by the star, originally was given to the entire group of Hyades, which would be considered hell. And that's right before it. Right before you get into Aldebaran, you're in Hyades. And the lunar mansion, which is whatever. See, and them naming all this stuff, this is what created all these weird-ass gods in India and all their different entities with all their different names. Well, all of them were made from the naming of these stars and those names passed down. And then those entities taking on the avatar of those stars. Them naming it everything and them doing all that is why everyone down here in the South and in Christian land, we don't know what you're talking about but this is, they research those groups of people, they live their life by this. So if you go through and read the story, because I'm not going to read it all, but what I did this, and I'm showing you this for one reason. If I wouldn't have had this, I wouldn't have been able to develop Cohu 32. If I wouldn't have had this and I wouldn't have done this process, then I wouldn't have been able to take back the power of the wheel. Cohu 32 was reminded to me that it was an overall process in putting yourself back together by putting myself back together. Cohu 32 is 32 energies that basically we've put into 32 categories of the energies in the wheel that have ever existed over time in bundles. Because it can get all very specific, but it's an energy way and it's a bundle, and it's how the human in your bloodline reacts to that energy when it's intersected, and then what it makes you do in the physical, good or bad. And then your ability in order to make a human decision and not just the star rays telling you what to do is what proves that you have the ability to hold the energy. Go pull your chart on equal houses. If you can't afford to get a star point chart, or if you've already done yours and you're wanting to really get deeper and see this, then go pull your chart to equal house setting and then go look up the exact energy that your planet is on. So if you have Venus at 11 and 12 degrees and on a Deberon, or let's say you've got the sun at 26 Aries, pull up Vertex. Go copy M31. Go copy and paste these stories on a Word document or a Google document, and then go pull up where your moon is. Copy and paste, put it on there. Go pull up where your Mercury is. Copy and paste, put it on there. Then go read the story of you. Then go read the cosmic story of you. You're gonna see. I mean, oh my gosh, like this one's been going on since 1400s. This one's been going on since 1200. This is Cassiopeia tied in with Virgo. Oh my gosh, I've got all this Libra energy, which is basically in Virgo. Or I've got this Libra energy and now it's in Scorpio. So I'm the pearl of Scorpio, and I'm this, and this, and I descend from blah, 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 blah. Well, how do you think I knew? How do you think I figured it out and started? How do you think I was shown? I went and read and did exactly what I'm telling you to do. And then I went and read the timeline of when all those connected. And I was like, oh my God. What? It just snapped in my head. That's how big your orb is out there in the cosmos. Whenever you do Cohu 32, and whenever I do your alignment, and whenever I say you're aligned, and then everybody thinks then things happen, but then it kind of slows down a minute, especially when it's in January, and we haven't even started up the yearly cycle yet, so nothing's moving right now. And then everyone's like, I don't think my alignment worked. Oh, it worked. Because this is what I did. I went and lined up all of your stars, and then I know enough of it because I've been doing it enough now. So what happened is a bigger bubble that connects all of your star points from way out there, like a big old oil blot in the middle of water, is now all connected on the outside. Now it's working back in, and it's basically like squeezing a pimple. Because your oil blot is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Why? Because your body is holding your oil blot, and it's coming through your center X, and it's going down into the lower hemisphere just as far as it's going up into that hemisphere. But wherever all your stars are connecting out there in space without lines in the middle, just the big circle, that's your bubble. We got this. We got this. The planets are lining up. Uranus has been in the Pleiades this whole time. All of their L and Superman and L has lost their AI breeding machine with their magical skull. Everyone's lost their magical cosmic womb. The only way that you're going to get anything into this realm that is attached to the cosmos is through a loving, balanced relationship. And it's going to come in the form of a loving, balanced relationship in your family, or it's going to come from bringing in new life. Women and children are now the most precious cargo on this planet, and we will wait until we're treated as such, because it don't matter what we do. Whenever we finally pull that trigger, then everyone is in a tarp, and then we got to battle it out. So right now we're just letting them all fizz out so that when we pull the trigger, it's peaceful. And to all the faction leaders and the Elons and the NASAs and the NATOs and all of that of the world, you're making it worse for yourself the longer that you're doing it. So we'll just let you keep plummeting yourself. When that gets balanced enough, then something's gonna come in. You know how we know? Because the world's got to continue, and you took over all the mimics, and they got to make the transaction. They got to have that energy wherever it is. If they go to their mimic and their mimic can't hold it, then they're going to go to the next one. If they can't hold it, they're going to get to you eventually. Just remember that. And any higher frequency conscious energy that's being segregated from the real ones that are actually doing the real cleanup work, I take back all that high frequency energy and I give it back to the collective that's been doing the work. The ones that have been living in the high frequency, screaming at all of us, telling us that we're just going to manifest it as they left us and danced on our graves and sold their souls to entities way worse than you'd ever consider the devil, because the devil was just made by your elders, believe it or not. This entity wasn't even that. You're being taken care of right now. Because the truth is, if the spiritual community wouldn't have done what they did, then there was no freaking possible way that Diddy would have had a party to begin with. So I both of them are equally responsible as far as I'm concerned, and as far as Mother's concerned. Love you guys. 1249, 1249, 1213. That's 333. That matches up to yesterday. Everybody hold on. We got this. This is where we at. Just in your mind, just picture that heart is getting rolled up. And now that heart is as big as the multiverse. And you're coming back in the simulation. When you come back in, you're probably noticing it's not just you coming in. Your groups will start getting bigger. This piece of the soul that comes in is activating 144,000 at once whenever a piece of it comes in. Love y'all. Bye. Cohu32.com. We'll be putting some new stuff in by the end of the week. And if you want to go check out House of Kochi, you might want to do it before we update the website. We aren't losing money, but we're barely making anything on them because we haven't added anything for shipping. So if you want to go get it before it's actually done, you're saving a little bit of money. If you want to go grab something right now, we're fine with that. The more that if you have Cohu 32, anything in your possession, print it and put it in your house. All we got to do is get our stuff in people's houses. That's it. You feel the attachment. Everything has consciousness. Go give us $4.44. Go give us $7.07. Give us something. Send in, if you haven't sent in anything, and I'm not saying because we need the money. That's not it. We need the energy. We need the transaction coming into us so that we can send it to you. If you don't send anything to us, and if there's never been a channel that's come into us or me in any way, then you don't have a direct connection into us the same way your governments have connection into us, moving money in and out of your bank accounts. That's all it is. That's why that's up there for $4.44. I don't know if we have the Cohu, I shouldn't have to keep creating things in order to get that in. I'm just telling y'all, these are things that we as a society, we have to stop thinking about money the way it is. I know how Cash App got what it was. Cash App became what it was, and Cash App became a quantum money game because my team is the one who built the Cash App current. We all got Cash App cards at the same time when we got into certain energy in order to be able to do that. Before that, everybody was on Coco Polo with me, and everybody was paying $22 a month on the 22nd in order to have basically what I'm giving you right now for free. That $22 every month putting together in that circle, then we at one time was buy Cash App cards, and man, we created a current that got the federal government's knowledge, and then they sent me $16,000 in order to clean from the feds in my BMO Harris account because they tried to take our current. That's why I don't have a system set up like that, but Norma Jean and Tanja do. Because I'm not building a new one. I'm getting back the one that created the ones that y'all have all been living off of the $50,000 cash that the Divine Feminine sent out that's equal to $5 trillion that we haven't got back yet. So we're in the process of building up a new current. But in the meantime, we got to anybody that's ever sent me money, ever, that since it's been on healing journey, y'all, if in these different things, but it doesn't have to be like I say, it can be $1. If we set up a website and got everybody to send in $1 to get their sovereignty, but then who's getting the money? See, that would be the test to whoever set up the site.